Welcome to the 24K Life podcast. I'm your host, Derick Gant. You know, the 24K Life is all about helping you become the goal. You know, you can actually be the value that you seek. The value that you offer the world is what they see and then deliver more value in return. At the 24K Life, we love to bring you insights, tools, and most importantly, expert guests that can help you to level up your life. Now, today, we are bringing a special guest, exquisitely trained by the John Maxwell, Andrea Johnson. And Andrea is a transformational leadership coach, certified, as I mentioned, in the Maxwell Leadership Program. She's a speaker, trainer, coach, and a DISC behavioral analyst consultant. We're going to find out more about what that actually means. Andrea works with leaders who feel stifled, stuck, and that they are unsatisfied with their current level of influence. Her passion is equipping female leaders to define a new culture by trusting their own ability to think critically and create imaginatively. With that, I want you all to welcome Andrea to the show. Andrea, how are you?
Oh, I'm good today. I'm excited to be here. I've taken a little bit of a break from doing interviews, and it feels really good to be back in the studio talking about some really good stuff.
Well, you know, that makes two of us. I took a break from interviewing, and you're the first for this season. So we're excited to have you. We're interested in what you have to offer the universe and our audience. You know, our audience makes up a decent amount of individuals, and I'm going to say about 65% who are 9-to-5ers, but probably looking for more in their lives. And so we're excited to have you here to talk with them. Our audience is also comprises of about 65% females to males. And so you are the one to help us figure out how to level up, how to get what we truly want out of this life, and how to figure out, you know, the best way to do it. So my first question for you is, how are you today?
I'm actually really good. I came off last Friday. I had an in-person conference here in the Charlottesville area, and I'm still living a little bit of high off of that. I'm excited about the leadership opportunities that I've been given, and I'm excited to see where this whole season is going to go. You know how we always, as entrepreneurs, we kind of plan out our year, and it never goes precisely as you think it's going to go. And so I'm just really excited to see where the rest of this year and all of 2025 is going to go. I'm excited.
All right. So I know we don't know you yet, and we haven't shared the greatness inside, but I want to know about this live event that you just had. Tell us about that.
Well, as you said, I'm a Maxwell leadership speaker, trainer, and coach. And as part of the executive leadership program team and even the mentorship team, I have access to a wonderful program called Live to Lead. If you have not seen that all over the internet, then you're not in the leadership circle right now, because and you need to fix your algorithm because it's everywhere. This is a live event that John Maxwell has been doing for 11 years now. And almost every October, like this year, they recorded a little bit different, but every October, the first weekend, he pulls together amazing leadership speakers from across the globe and simulcasts these amazing talks. I got to find better words, but he simulcasts these informative and encouraging and challenging and helpful talks from people like Valerie Burton and Malcolm Gladwell, and 2 years ago, Jamie Kern-Lima. Last year, we had Ryan Leake. So these virtual speakers, it can be simulcast depending on where you are in the world and what you're doing on the day that it is live. But what we then, as Maxwell leadership speaker, trainer, and coaches, have the option of doing is purchasing a license for that. So I purchased a license that I can use from October 4th through February 28th, and I can do up to 3 ticketed events. And I started my first one here in Charlottesville. This is my second one that I've done. And we doubled the amount of people we had at the last one. And what we did was we met 9 o'clock in the morning. We did some amazing just networking events, activities, figuring out how to get to know people, because we pulled together. I was really surprised at the demographic of the room. It was very diverse in both race and gender and the type of work they do, and who was, like you said, about 65% of your people are looking. They're in the 9 to 5, maybe looking. I had entrepreneurs in the room. I had those who work with entrepreneurs. I had people who were no desire to be an entrepreneur. And it was just a really fun environment. We watched 5 of the different videos, having activities in between, making sure that people can apply what they learn, right? Because you can go to a conference and you can sit there and you can listen to all this stuff and you take notes and you come home. But then what do you do? So this is almost, and I hate to call it a conference, it's almost a workshop where you get to hear these renowned speakers and do table work with the people at your table. And then we had an afternoon keynote come in, and I had the DEI specialist from the city of Charlottesville. She's the first DEI associate or assistant city manager come in for them. It's their very first one that they've ever had. She's been there about 5 years. She was phenomenal. So not only did we have amazing leadership in all these other different areas on abundance, on time management and resources, on how you rethink about your challenges in your life, but then we had her come in and wrap it all up and say, and the best way that we can be a leader in right where you are, no matter what work you have to do, is with fairness and justice. And it was just beautiful. The atmosphere in the conference was all day long.
Right.
I literally came home and fell on the couch face down because it was just so good. I had, right before the keynote, I couldn't get the crowd to settle. They were buying books. We had a book table. They were buying books. They were talking to people. And so I got up. I had built in time. So I got up and I let them know, okay, we're going to shut this down in just a second. We need to get to our closing keynote. I did that twice. And the third time, I don't have any control here. Somebody shouted from the crowd, you created this. And it just speaks to what we do as Maxwell leaders and Maxwell coaches is we provide opportunities for people to develop their own skills and to tap into the strengths and the experience that they have to make everything better. And I wrote down your tag phrase here. It's making you you become the goal. And that's what we do. You and I are 100% on the same page there, because even if I go in and work with another team to fix communication or do those kind of things with them, each individual has to be the goal. And so if one person on the team won't do that, then you've got a problem. So it was really exciting to see this in a live environment. And we're going to do another one down in Lynchburg at the first of the year and maybe one in Northern Virginia. But there are over 350 of these sites all around the world, Switzerland, Kenya. Yeah. So you should be able to find one near you. Absolutely.
So my question is, and you kind of mentioned it when you said that someone stood up in the crowd and yelled, you created this. You call yourself the intentional optimist. So tell us about that. I mean, it seems like that it obviously must be true if you're doing an event and you're creating a atmosphere where people are abuzz, they're optimistic, and they are excited and energized. So why do you call yourself the intentional optimist, and how did that come about?
Well, it came about because I am not by nature a true optimist. Which surprises a lot of people.
Great.
I am by nature a realist. In the Enneagram, I'm a 6. So I'm the one who can figure out, I can see all the potholes coming and I can figure out how to get around all of those. But sometimes in an environment where you're working as a team, or even in my marriage, that comes across as, you always shoot down my ideas. I'm like, well, they're not going to work. So as a natural realist who has an optimistic bent, I knew that I needed to work on that. Because of that, I tend to struggle, and I'm sure many of your listeners understand me when I say this, with perfectionism and I have struggled with depression and that kind of thing. So when my mother died when I was 50, we lost her to a 17-year battle to breast cancer. It was a very big wake-up call for me. I said, I have lived 50 years. I know what I've got. I know where I am. And I know what career I'm in. I had an 8-year-old adopted son. And I said, I don't think I want my next 50 to look this way.
Right.
I would like my next 50 to be different. How can I do that differently? And I took advantage of the crucible of grief and just did a whole lot of reflecting and said, what do I want to stand for? Who am I? Why am I doing this? And of course, I think everyone needs to do this kind of exercise. But for me, it turned into something that I realized is a message. I have something to share. And it started out you're listening to me for 10 minutes now. You know I'm a detail person. So it started out with a spreadsheet and like this big, and I consolidated it down because there were 6 main areas. And I called them my tenets, the 6 tenets of intentional optimism. And the first one is optimistic, and that encompasses hope. And I say that that's the first one because I really need to remind myself to be optimistic. The second is being present. And a lot of people will talk about being present, but really what they're talking about is being where their feet are. And so when I talk about being present, I include things like being present in conversations and encompassing wonder into my daily life. The third one is energetic. If we don't have energy, we can't do anything. One of our talks at Live to Lead this last year is Valerie Burton, and she's got a new book coming out, and it's all about understanding resilience and understanding your own leadership energy gaps. So that's the third one. And when you understand your own energy and where it comes from, you have the ability to then share it with other people. The fourth one is courage. And when we talk about courage, that's where leadership comes in. I talk to so many women, Derick, who are afraid to lead, who don't feel like they're equipped to lead, who don't feel like they have the ability to lead. And I just want to make sure that they have that ability to do that. And so that's why I talk about courage. And I literally have to give myself courage on a daily basis. And sometimes I borrow from other people, but that's the fourth one. The fifth one is wisdom. And this was one that was a little bit more difficult for me to tap into. I did not see myself as a wise person. I had always been told that I made poor choices because I didn't make the choices that aligned with everybody else in my, I don't know, environment, demographic, whatever. And so I just had to kind of look at myself and say, you know what? People come to me for stuff. People show up in my office when they're in the middle of a panic attack and know that I am a safe place. Younger women come to me for parenting advice, even though I didn't adopt my son until I was 42 and I'm now 58. But younger women, millennials especially, kind of see me as a little bit of a surrogate mother figure or a wise aunt or something. So wisdom is one of those things that we all have wisdom. We just don't know how to tap into it and share it. So that's the fifth one. And the final one, we have to bookend it with optimistic and intentionality. The final one is intentional. And that means I have a plan. That means I actually know where I'm going. I have a point in the horizon that gives me the ability to say, you know, like my son's in driver's ed this semester. I was not ready for, but being able to know that I'm going to be the one to teach him to drive. And I want him to be able to see that point on the horizon and adjust the steering wheel however we need to. So being intentional kind of pulls all of that together. And when I put that together as intentional optimism, I had no clue that that was going to be a foundation for my business. I had no clue that that's where I was headed, but I knew that's how I wanted to live. Right. And most of us teach from the place of where we want to live or where we have lived, right?
So, yeah, so an interesting question. You said that one of your tenets is courage, and you help people, i.e., you said women, to overcome their fear, not be afraid to go out and lead. Mm-hmm. The reason why I find this so interesting is because during our current political arena, a lot of pushback on one of the candidates is that men of all races don't want to follow a woman. And it seems to be this antiquated concept based on what I believe are erroneous historical descriptions. But my point in asking this or mentioning this is how does a woman, and I'm going to use the word woman because of what I just said, how does a woman overcome that and it with so much force against her? And we know that happens in the boardroom, it happens in the coffee room, it happens in sports, it happens everywhere. And so how do you work with that? How do you deal with that?
Well, to be brutally honest, I am still working on it myself because I'm 58. I have 58 years of conditioning in that same system that is pushing back on our current presidential candidate that is a female. And for me, I look at her and I think, okay, that's lots of courage and I'm going there, right? But when I say that to other women, it helps them hear, okay, you're accessible. This is something that we have to work on a daily basis. So I do that work with women in a couple of areas. First is understanding our ABCs, our assumptions, beliefs, and conditioning. And there are plenty of things that we have been taught all of our lives through school, through church, through working our way up in the boardroom that tell us that we have a place in the world. And if you've been blessed enough to not be programmed with that messaging that the woman's place is somewhere a few steps behind a man or somewhere a few steps below a man. And I mean, if you've not been programmed with that, then please use that to encourage the rest of us, because so most of us have been programmed in that way, especially those of us from the evangelical South. And it's our heritage. It's what we have to work with. The problem is, if we're not aware of it, we just keep going and we just keep moving through it. As soon as we're aware of it, it becomes what we call cognitive dissonance. This doesn't match up. This puzzle piece doesn't go with that puzzle piece. And when we start doing that, then it becomes a conflict in our own hearts and our own lives. And it might become a conflict in our jobs or in even like in political spheres, that kind of thing. But when I work with women, we work on our ABCs. I want to know what our assumptions are, what our beliefs, I'm just going to say this out loud, are changeable, 100% changeable.
I agree with that. 100%. So when you look at the horizon and you look at the work that you do, and I listen to you and I look at your name, I want your opinion or your insights on, I would assume that when you do something for an extended period of time, it becomes a habit, it becomes automatic. And it sounds like you're saying that that's not the case for you, and that maybe that statement is conditional on whatever it is you're trying to improve on. And so what I'm clearly saying is this, you said that you still have to work on being intentional. You still have to work on being optimistic. You still have to work on not being afraid and being a leader and knowing that you have value to the world. So I was a little surprised when you said that you still work on being optimistic. I don't know how long you've been doing this, but it sounds like you've been doing this for a few years at least, right? So how long does it take, do you believe, in this instance, on these parameters, to make it a habit where you just wake up and you're optimistic, or you just, because you know what? Because I'm like you to some degree. I'm a financial planner. So I'm a planner. Everything's planned. I'm a guy, so I'm kind of logical.
I'm super logical, which is where my realism comes from.
Well, absolutely. But for some reason, I'm hella optimistic and I don't have to work at it. So like, for instance, in your example, you said that, you'll see these 6 potholes and then you'll plan on how to navigate them. And I might do that, but I never doubt that we're going to get past these 6 potholes. And so that's the beauty of having so many, everyone being different, because we're all different in our quest to help other people that, may have been at this game for a minute. When can they expect some relief? When can they expect things just to click in and happen?
I think if I said things are just going to click in and you're going to be a totally different person and it's going to happen, I would be lying, because you're a human, right? And so when I say, the last piece of that I can get to is the conditioning. And that's the piece that there's a difference between habits and conditioning. Habits is action. I am a James Clear fan. I have read Atomic Habits. I have taught Atomic Habits. I love the idea of making these little tiny adjustments. And even when I do this with my son, is a lot of times we'll talk about when we're trying to change a habit, and what you're describing there is maybe our reaction to our circumstances, the habit of our reactions, or the habit of the way we respond to a situation in that boardroom or in the line at the coffee shop. When we're in the process of doing that, it starts off and it feels like we're not going to make any progress. And if we do little bitty pieces at a time, then we get a little bit more of a rut, right? We're trying to build a new rut instead of falling into the old one. And so the more we do that, we're not ever going to be perfect, but in raising, because I'm an adoptive mother of an ADHD son, and I had no idea what to do with that. And we didn't adopt him until we were 42. Until I was 42. So I already had a whole lot of habits and ruts and everything. And I had an idea of what parenting was supposed to look like. So this is a good example, but being able to look at him and say, look, if it's me learning a new habit or you learning a new habit, my dear, we're not going to be perfect, but each time the gap between the trigger of whatever it is that we want to change the habit around and the results that we want, each time it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And he actually said that to me the other day. He said, I'm really sorry because he's almost 16. So he's like, I'm really sorry I rolled my eyes and did that thing at you. But I actually recognized it a lot faster. I said, yes, you did. High five it, buddy. I mean, because he did. So we as adults have the same issue. And I'm going to throw out there too that you're also a man, which means there's certain things that you can be a little less fearful of. Whereas women we just have a lot of stuff. So when we look at those, the other piece that I work with people on, and I see you've put it up on the screen, is core values. When we understand our core values and how we're wired, most of us will say, yeah, we think we know our values. And there's a lot of talk out there about that. But the reality is we don't truly always understand our core values. We know things upset us. We know things bring us joy, but we don't always know how to, number one, name them. Number two, honor them. And so some of what we're talking about here is being able to say, like, somebody may have a core value of security, and it's just something they need, and they need to honor that in their lives, and they need to be in an environment that is honoring of that. And so having somebody like me that says, there's a pothole, and there's a pothole. If you turn 3 degrees to the right here and go around there, that's what they need. Whereas somebody doesn't have that, then they could talk with you and say, yep, we see all those potholes up there. We're going to go really fast over them so that they don't break the axle of the car.
So that's an interesting point, because my partner's a life coach and I'm more of a financial planner, a money coach. And I take the approach of what you just said, like, there's a pothole, turn 3 degrees if you're going to miss it. And her approach is, what do you think you should do to get around these potholes? Because, if you read anything about true coaching, which I do not call myself a true coach, more of an advisor, you help people to figure out their own stuff. I'm not asking you like which one you believe. I'm asking you, do you believe that the people that you serve in this particular situation operate better with some direction, or is it your position to just help them figure out how to get around these things?
My clients operate better with little direction. I call myself a hybrid between, because I'm not ICF certified and I have a friend who is, and boy, we call it hold space. She can do it better than anybody I know.
Tell the audience what ICF certified means.
International Coaching Federation. And if you're looking for a pure life coach, your partner may be ICF. If you're looking for a pure life coach that can actually say to you, what do you think your best options are? And if that's the kind of person you are and the things you need, then going a direction of somebody that has more of an ICF type coaching certification and background is probably going to be a better fit for you. I am, like when we say John Maxwell say speaker, trainer, and coach, I'm an executive leadership coach. I call myself a transformational leadership coach because I help people go from disempowered to empowered based on the things that they know. Because being empowered means you have the skills and the knowledge that you need to do what you need to do. So there's a teaching aspect to what I do. I do a lot of teaching, and there's a training aspect to what I do. I do that within teams. And like you said, I'm a DISC consultant. So that's an analysis of different personality types. And that is education as well. So there's plenty of that I put it together. And I have learned a lot of coaching skills where I can sit and hold space for people. Yeah. Once they have the information they need, I help them synthesize it.
Excellent. So I have a couple of things you can teach us.
Okay.
Since you that's part of your expertise. You mentioned, not today, in some of your content, you mentioned that emotional resilience is earned. Mm-hmm. So can you, first of all, describe to everyone what emotional resilience is? I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but for kicks and giggles, explain what it is and then explain how it's earned.
So resilience as a word basically means the ability to bounce back. So if you put emotional with that, I love the study of words. And when you put emotional with that, it means the ability to bounce back from emotional things. And when I talk about the idea that it needs to be earned, some people are born, Derick, truly with the ability to bounce back from hard emotional things. My sister was one of those people. My parents always said everything just rolls off her back like water off a duck. And that would have been really nice for me, but I was not that person. When I say it needs to be earned, most of us learn best from our own experiences, but we also learn best from overcoming things. When you look at nature and you look at a baby bird or a duck trying to get out of the shell, you don't want to break that shell for them. You want to let them do that. They build up the muscles they need in order to survive outside of the shell. There are all kinds of examples in nature like that. And when we do not do the emotional work, I mean, you're the one who said your thing is you become the goal, right? So if you are the goal and you want to grow, there are certain things that you're going to have to work through on your own that are going to make a difference in how well you bounce back from things in the future. So the more resilience we build, it's a little bit like developing your muscles. You don't go out and run a marathon today, you train for it for a good long time. And I've had several friends who were weightlifters who have popped tendons and torn muscles because they tried to do too much at one time. And so when we try to just automatically be resilient, that's another thing I don't think we just wake up and can do unless you're born with a more resilient type personality, which in that case, then you can help the rest of us too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I concur with that. I don't think you wake up and you're just resilient. You definitely have to go through. We use a hashtag called through the fire. You have to go through the fire to be gold, to get purified.
That's right.
My last serious question for you is another item that I came across in your information. It says that it's a stream of consciousness chatter. And I'm like, wow, I've never heard of that, never seen that. And I definitely want to ask her what she's referring to when she talked about stream of consciousness chatter.
I am a thinker, and I am somebody who has conversations inside my head all the time. And their stream of consciousness, they come through depending on, my dog. When I was getting ready for this podcast interview, my dog came downstairs and I couldn't figure out, I had some leftover bags from the conference and I couldn't figure out why she had been getting into them because there's no food in them or anything, but she's a beagle. And so when I moved them out of the room, she came down and was digging in something and she was trying to get behind another bag that I had. I'm like, what is that's back there? It was a tennis ball. And one of my sponsors was a health coach and had put tennis balls in these bags. And so I ended up playing with her, but that's part of this idea of wonder. It's understanding what's going on around you and in your head and being able to be present and to participate in, if it's something that you need to really reflect on, to be able to take that chatter and filter it out and say, this is what I need to work on, or to be able to be present with whatever happens in your life.
So here's my final question. And then we're going to let you share whatever gold nuggets you'd like to share with our community. So you're a big believer and user of analysis to understand who you are. For instance, you put out that your love language is quality time, your DISC type is I, your core value is belonging, your Enneagram is 6W7, and your political strength is a realtor. And so my question is, I've done all those as well.
Okay.
I only remember my love language because there's only 5 of them. So I'm sure there's probably more, but those are the 5 that most people, when they take the quiz, get to. And I remember my core values and then my main core value. So my question is, I know you use these things with your clients to help them understand who they are. Now, I also heard you say that most people, have core values, but they may not be able to put words to what it truly is, and they may not truly understand what it is. My question is, how important is it? Because I've already prefaced it by saying, I only remember 2 of these things. How important is it to know these things and be able to consistently regurgitate them? Me personally, obviously, I remember what's important to me. And so I don't think that in my own universe that once I've done the core values exercise 2 or 3 times in 2 or 3 different settings, and they always come out to be the same, that is who I am. So I don't really focus on it. The love language thing I told you, I do remember because there's only 5 of them. But the other things I don't really recall. So when you do these and people are thinking about who they are and who they want to become, how important is it for them to know, number one, and then for them to remember the details, you've got these things detailed out. This is what I am in their day-to-day lives.
Well, you've already answered it a little bit yourself.
Cool.
It's what's important to you. Mm-hmm. And usually when I preface those things, I tell people, you may not need any of this. You might not be curious about any of it. I'm definitely curious about it. I mean, I call myself terminally curious, and that's one of the areas where I am curious. And part of it is because I was always a square peg in trying to fit into a round hole. So I was always trying to figure out what it was about me that made me so different. And when you talk about knowing your core values and seeing that they keep coming up, if you're living in a way that honors them, then that's great. If you've figured out a way to live that, and when you do your core values exercises and you find out, I'm not dishonoring these core values, they're easy for me to honor in my life, that's not work that you necessarily need to do. Mm-hmm. But if perhaps your love language is damaging your relationship with your partner, then that's something that you need to work on. So my goal, I can't offer to my clients things like Enneagram because I'm not certified in that. I can't offer Clifton strengths, even though I'm a relator and a maximizer. I'm not certified in that, but I like putting people in touch. My goal, Derick, is to find what my client needs or to find what my listener needs and help them find it. If, kind of like the old Macy's Miracle on 50 whatever street, because I don't have all of the answers. I'm a journeyer as well, but I want to make sure that any of the answers that I have are answers that they need. So because I'm an analytical person, because I enjoy looking at those things, I share that. And then the people that are interested in those kinds of things also get in touch with me. Now, the only thing I would say about your core values is if you do the exercise 3 or 4 times and they always come up as the same thing, but then you think you don't need to worry about them, but yet you're not happy, if you're unfulfilled, if you're finding yourself bored or disempowered in any way, or if there's something that keeps angering you over and over and over, then I would suggest that maybe that's an area that you might want to pull out, even though you know what they are, and ask yourself, how am I applying these? How am I integrating them into my life? Because knowledge is great, but it's not wisdom until it's applied. So we can have all this analytical stuff that we know about ourselves, but if we don't actually apply it, then it doesn't do us any good. And so, not everybody needs all of that. I like having the layers, and it's like a 3D puzzle. I'm a Survivor fan, so I like putting together the 3D puzzle and saying, okay, now I have this about me and this about me that I understand. And this is why I do podcasts, interviews really well. I'm a relator, but I also create belonging, which is why people show up in my office in the middle of a panic attack saying you are the safe space. So it just helps me understand myself better and helps me figure out with my clients what they need to focus on.
Excellent. For those of you that want to get more, you need more Andrea, you can go to her podcast, Stand Tall and Own It. And it is literally everywhere. I was checking it out. She's on Pandora. She's everywhere. So Stand Tall and Own It. That will get you a little bit more information on her philosophies and her strategies and the tools that she's using. Also, you can go to www.theintentionaloptimist.com/values. She also has a special offer. And if you want to get that, go to the show notes. It will be posted there on all of the locations that you're watching, be it YouTube or Spotify or Apple, all the places that we share our 24K Life podcast. With that, I want to ask, what gold nugget, if you could narrow it down to 1 or 2 things that you find that the people you best serve need to hear as they sum up this audio recording?
Yeah, Derick, the reason I do my work is I think the world needs more welcoming, curious, and wise leaders. Mm-hmm. And when we do the work on ourselves, when we become the goal, it sounds selfish, but then we turn around and we can then help those around us. When we have a clear set of life principles, when we do understand our core values or who we are, that gives us the ability to lead with integrity and humility and authority in ways that the world doesn't recognize, right? It's just, there's so much, like you mentioned, in our political system right now and our environment, it's just upside down. And when we, as especially women, take the reins and lead from a place of the ability to think critically and create imaginatively, the world needs your answers. The world needs your input. And if we don't have it, we're missing out. We're coming up on the holiday season, and my sister and I were this morning, we're talking about different holiday meals. And it's like, if you don't bring the thing you're supposed to bring to the table, we are going to miss out on that meal.
Absolutely.
So please do this. The more you are yourself and the more you're willing to be you and stop imitating other people and just be you, the beautiful creation that you are, then you create for yourself a path of sustainable leadership. It's impactful and sustainable because it's you and you don't have to imitate anybody else. And that's what I want to leave you with and to encourage you to do.
All right. You know what? She was way better than I just imagined. And I didn't know what to expect, but way better. Like, let me tell you what I like. I like that she has done her homework. She has done the work. I like her authenticity because no matter which way I pushed, she came up with the great answers. Things like, listen, I don't have all the answers. Here's the things that I do for myself. Here's the things I do for my clients. And I'm seeking to figure out how to best serve them, what best works with them. And that's the right answer because there is no one way to get something done. There's no one way to be the goal. I can't tell you exactly what you should do. What I can do is lead by example. What Andrea is doing is leading by example, giving you some insights, some tools, and some perceptions that will maybe make that road a little bit easier. Because if you see a pothole and you go 3 degrees to the left and then forward, you might get where you're trying to go better instead of trying to fix that flat tire you got by driving into that pothole. So I believe very strongly that each and every one of us has a gift that we are to share with the world. But you can't share something that you don't truly possess, that you don't truly believe in. And if it means, according to Andrea's words, if it means that you need to recondition yourself to get you where you should be because you're being triggered, you're not feeling your absolute best, something is throwing you a little off, then you need to go do the work. I believe that she has done her work in her area of expertise, and I think it shines through glowingly. So she gets a 24K gold star for being authentic, for showing up and being the amazing person that she is. Now, let me tell you one final personal thing. I think you're a friggin' idiot if you don't know, realize, or understand that women historically have been put down and that women historically have always led. They have always led, even if it was in the ear of the person that was allegedly leading. They have always been a powerhouse in the system of our success as humans. And so, I'm really speaking to those men that don't think this way because the women already know it. They already know it, and they're just being nice to us. You need to understand, and I'm not saying this for any political reasons. I'm saying this for your own personal health. How many times has your spouse, partner, or girlfriend told you, you should go do X, Y, Z because your heart's going to explode if you don't stop eating that. If you don't take your meds, this is going to happen. If you don't look at it this way, or at least be open to looking at it this way, you're going to miss out on some amazing thing with your kid. And they are always right. Let me tell you something. They are usually, I'm not going to say always, I'm going to say they are usually right because they have an intuition. They have a God-given gift to tap into the non-logical portions of life, what life has to offer, as well as some of the logical portions, and marry those two together to help all of us be more loving. And I like her following notes that we all need more wisdom. We all need more love. We all need more consideration. And with that, you have to go through those things in order to be those things. And in doing that, you are now the goal. 24K life, baby. Hey, I'm Derick Gant. Be your best. Bring your best. Leave nothing to chance.